back to another episode of the AZ Sports Podcast. My name is Kevin Humphreys. Let's get right into today's show. The Arizona Diamondbacks were victorious against the Chicago Cubs. Not something many of us thought was going to happen because, well, let's be honest, the Chicago Cubs, quite frankly, destroyed the Diamondbacks in this series, dominated us from start to finish. But the Diamondbacks still won this series, it felt like. Chicago Cubs starters gave up just one run in this series, if you can believe that. Just one run. Diamondbacks were shut out for the first 16 innings of this series and only scored 2 runs in the final rubber match game yesterday. Just a phenomenal job by the Diamondbacks pitching staff to keep the Diamondbacks in the game for the last 2 games. Obviously, Brandon Fott and Eduardo Rodriguez both pitched well. Brandon Fott gave up some home runs, but it happens. It happens. And sorry, gotta get this live stream up and going. Okay, might as well just restart. Okay. The Arizona Diamondbacks take 2 out of 3 games against the Chicago Cubs this week in dramatic fashion. The Arizona Diamondbacks lost the first game of the series 7-0. Merrill Kelly did not have his best stuff, but still survived to only allow a couple runs. But then Taylor Clark gave up multiple home runs uh, when he came in the game for Merrill Kelly, and ultimately lost the game for the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks scored 0 runs, which is just how it's gone this season. It's very feast or famine for the Diamondbacks. And on Monday, they couldn't get any offensive production going. And it felt like the Diamondbacks were on their way to losing another series that they could not afford to lose at this point in the wild card race. And it felt like that on Tuesday night as well. Brandon Fott didn't have his best stuff, gave up 1 3-run home run to Ian Happ, which made the score 4-0 for most of the game. But it was the Diamondbacks who came through in the eighth and ninth innings to again answer back to keep this season alive. It started in the eighth inning when Tim Tawa and Jordan Lawler both got on base. Jordan Lawler was obviously super scary moment where a ball coming in at 99 miles an hour hit him in the helmet. He was taken out of the game and replaced by Jose Fernandez. Then the lineup turned to um sorry. Then the lineup turned to um Ildemaro Vargas, Corbin Carroll, Geraldo Perdomo, and Gabriel Moreno. It was First, it was or sorry, not Eldemaro Vargas. First, it was a ground out. Oh, who was it? Shoot, this bad podcasting. All right. Well, no one's watching this, so we can just start from here. Three, two, one, go. What's up, everyone? Today we're getting right in. Nope. Three, two, one, go. The Arizona Diamondbacks defeat the Chicago Cubs twice this week to win a pivotal series for their wild card race chances, and it was in controversial fashion. Game one of this series, the Chicago Cubs won 7-0. The Cubs dominated Merrill Kelly, but Merrill Kelly hung in there and only gave up two earned runs. But it was Taylor Clark in the bullpen who allowed multiple home runs in that game, and the Diamondbacks ultimately didn't have any offense and lost 7-0. Game two on Tuesday was another Chicago Cubs dominant performance for 7 innings. The Cubs, Ian Happ hit a three. The Cubs, Ian Happ hit a 3-run home run in the top of the fourth inning to give the Cubs a 3-0 lead. And then the Cubs tacked on one more run in the sixth inning to give themselves a 4-0 lead. Brandon Fott has been susceptible to the home run ball recently. His performance has slid off since coming back from Reno over the last two games, but he still did enough to keep the Diamondbacks within shouting distance to make a comeback and to answer back, which is what they've done now 40 times this season. That's 40 comeback wins for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Do I wish that they could get out to leads and hold on to leads more in games? I do. I really wish the Diamondbacks would be better through the first part of the game, but how this team is played, not just this season, but the past few seasons, this is who they are. They're never out of it because they're always, always, always answering back. And that happened again in the bottom of the eighth inning against the Cubs. It started with a Vargas flyout. Then Jordan Lawler got hit by a pitch, which brought in Jorge Barosa, which was very important. And we'll get to that in a second. But it brought in Jorge Barosa. Then Nootbaar walked and Barosa advanced to second. Corbin Carroll struck out. And then Gabriel Moreno had the weirdest check swing double that I've ever seen from a Diamondbacks player. But he check swing, the ball bounced off of his bat, rolled past first base, hit off the bag, which scored Barosa and had Moreno and Nootbaar at second and third. Then it was a very clutch single from Geraldo Perdomo to center field that scored Nootbaar and Moreno and got Perdomo all the way into second. With a chance to tie or take the lead, Max Kepler grounded into and out to the pitcher, and it felt like the Diamondbacks' last ditch effort at making a comeback fell short, and they were going to lose 4-3. Justin Martinez came in and pitched the ninth inning. He flashed a 103 mile per hour sinker Good luck hitting that MLB baseball, but also he was still a little erratic and all over the place with his location. But it's good to see J Mart play in some of these higher leverage situations. And I do think that he will be this team's closer by the end of the season if he can get things all locked in. But the real headline from this entire series was once again Ryan Waldschmidt's walk-off home run to beat the Chicago Cubs. It started with Fernandez getting walking and getting on first, and then Waldschmidt pinch hit for Jorge Barosa. And we have lots of very impressive historical things that Waldschmidt did. He became the fourth rookie ever to have multiple walk-off home runs while trailing in MLB history because he also has a walk-off home run while trailing against the Los Angeles Dodgers earlier this month, and he's the first to ever do it in the same month. He also becomes the fifth player ever to have two walk-off home runs within his first three home runs at the major league level. James McCann is also on that list, funny enough. Waldschmidt is the only player this season to have multiple walk-off home runs while trailing in all of Major League Baseball. Ketel Marte has two walk-off home runs, but one of those was when the game was tied. No one has two walk-off home runs while trailing. Pretty impressive stuff from Waldschmidt. He's the first rookie to have a pinch hit walk-off home run in Diamondbacks history. And since the All-Star break, did you know that Ryan Waldschmidt has a 309 batting average and an 845 OPS? He might be the next young king for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And with him, Jordan Lawler, and Corbin Carroll, it's hard not to get extremely excited about the future outfield of the Arizona Cardinals. The infield is old, the outfield is young. Although let's put some respect on Geraldo Perdomo because he's definitely uh, a guy that the Diamondbacks are building around for the foreseeable future as well. And he's played really well in the month of August as well. Like I said, coming into the month, I thought that this would be Perdomo's best month of the season. It has been so far, and he's finally come up with the clutch hits that the Diamondbacks have needed with runners in scoring position this month, which is something that he's needed to turn around this entire season. And it looks like he's done that. Now, let's get into what happened yesterday and the uh everything that happened with PCA. So, Eduardo Rodriguez went 7 shutout innings yesterday, but it probably shouldn't have been a shutout because PCA was on third base and because of his aggressiveness caused Eduardo Rodriguez to balk. But the play is not reviewable and the umpires didn't actually see what happened, and so they didn't let PCA advance to home and score a run. Instead, PCA had to stay at third, and he was very demonstrative, which is not unlike PCA. I think he's the most demonstrative player in baseball. After every single time he gets an out, I think he slams his bat, tries to break it, and then he'll throw his helmet down at the ground as hard as he can and try and break that. I would say PCA probably leads the major leagues this season in a lot of categories, but the number one thing he leads the majors in this season is broken helmets because that guy has never seen a helmet he doesn't like. But he's very cocky, he's very arrogant, but he's also very raw and very real, which we'll get to later. But that was in the top of the sixth inning, and Rodriguez, with PCA at third, besides the balk, was able to keep him there and keep the game scoreless. And then in the bottom of the sixth inning, it was Jordan Lawler who hit a home run to right field to give the Diamondbacks a 1-0 lead. That was by far the second biggest hit of the series because it gave the Diamondbacks and Eduardo Rodriguez enough breathing room to go out there for one more inning and shove again. Rodriguez has been absolutely masterful this season. In 27 starts this season, the Arizona Diamondbacks have won 21 of those starts. 21. Rodriguez has been the pitcher that we all wanted him to be for the last few seasons, but he finally showed up this year. He's been the Diamondbacks ace for the entire season, and he absolutely dominated the Cubs. And as PCA said, he was shoving it down our throats. He was shoving it down the Cubs' throats. And now the Diamondbacks are only one game back of the San Diego Padres for the last spot in the National League wild card. The Diamondbacks also play the Phillies on Monday after a 4-game series against San Francisco this weekend. So the next 7 days of baseball are going to be incredibly huge for the Diamondbacks and their chances at making the wild card this season. Diamondbacks have to play 4 games in 3 days. They will not be playing on Sunday. So if your usual routine is coming home, um, coming home from Sunday church or whatever you got going on, then and then watching Diamondbacks baseball, there's not going to be any. So you're gonna have to find something else to do between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock on Sunday because the Arizona Diamondbacks will not be playing baseball for the first time this entire season. They won't be playing baseball on a Sunday. How wild is that? Um, but yeah, the Diamondbacks have a huge, huge, huge 7 game stretch coming up. Obviously, every single stretch is huge, but the Diamondbacks desperately need to win at least 3 out of 4 games against the Giants and preferably all 4 games against the Giants. The Giants, one of the bottom teams in baseball right now, one of the bottom teams in the National League. They don't have anything to play for other than pride. The Diamondbacks have everything to play for, but the problem is that they're playing multiple rookie pitchers. They're going to have Jose Cabrera pitch tonight. They're going to have Mitch Bratt most likely pitch again this weekend. And Merrill Kelly, who has struggled recently, is going to have to pitch again as well. Hopefully, Merrill Kelly fixes his tipping problem, which might be why why he's been getting hit so much, is because teams have been able to identify him tipping his changeup, which is what the Cubs were doing. Merrill didn't like it, but the Cubs weren't doing anything against the rules. And now Merrill has to fix it and get back to being Merrill the mainstay. The Diamondbacks desperately, desperately need these young pitchers to come up and play at a high level because they need to win these games at San Francisco because there's no rest for the weary. And if you can't beat the teams at the bottom, which the Diamondbacks have been able to do so well this season, if you're not able to beat those teams, you're definitely not going to be able to hang around in a wild card race against the Padres and the Phillies. The other Diamondbacks news that's happened off the field in the last 24 hours was an article written by Ken Rosenthal breaking down the Diamondbacks situation. And as we've talked about this situation many times on this podcast since it happened, Marte went AWOL while the Diamondbacks had a series in Boston, and he did not meet with team personnel until Thursday. So he went a full 3 to 4 days without really discussing the situation with Diamondbacks personnel. And uh, he was put on the restricted list. He was then placed on the 10-day IL. And now he's expected to return to the Arizona Diamondbacks lineup on Monday against the Phillies. And here are some of the quotes from anonymous players about the Cattell Marte situation. Typical Cattell, just leaving. It is what it is. And then teammates that were asked about him showing up at the casino. One teammate, granted anonymity for his candor, called it a slap in the face. Another said that was rubbing people's noses in it. So for anyone who said that Cattell Marte going to the casino was no big deal, well, it turns out it felt like a big deal to the players in the clubhouse. And those are the people that matter the most in this situation are his teammates. So if his teammates have a problem with Cattell Marte, if Cattell Marte's teammates have a problem with him going to a casino and making it about himself, then I think that's a pretty big deal. I think it's it's a big deal that his teammates feel a certain type of way about it. Mattel Cattell Marte has yet to address the team about his mysterious disappearance, and it will be interesting to see how the Diamondbacks players and people in the organization respond because as we've covered before, this isn't the Diamondbacks' first rodeo with putting Ketel Marte on the restricted list because he failed to show up to a game he was expected to be at. It happened last year. After the first 3 games back from the All Star break, Marte did not show up. Uh, he didn't show up because he was in the Dominican Republic, and then he did not show up because his house was burglarized. But this has been a common theme from Marte to let his teammates down when his teammates need him to lock in and show up the most. And it's a reflection on Torey Lovello as a manager to not be able to control this situation and let it spiral out of control the way it did. He said, "It is a direct reflection on me," said Lovello, who is in the last year of his contract. "I'm the leader of this organization on the dugout level, and he's one of our best players. It doesn't make anybody look very good as the manager of this team. I shoulder that responsibility. I want to get better from it. I want to learn from it. I want to never allow something like this to happen again." Well, I'm sure the sentiment was very similar last time this happened with Marte, but the Diamondbacks again allowed this or at least gave Marte the the ability to make this happen. Now, you can't rule star baseball players with an iron fist anymore because that's just how it is in the player empowerment era of sports, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you have to be able to figure out a better way to deal with this situation than starting a honestly like a national panic about Ketel Marte and his mental health, and then no one knowing what's going on for the next 3 days. There has to be a better way of handling these situations so that they don't become front page cover stories and surround your team that's playing really good baseball at the time in controversy. The Diamondbacks are 5-4 since Marte went AWOL, and it would sure be nice if they had won a few more games, potentially against the Reds, sweeping the Reds, or at least putting up a better showing than they did on Monday and Tuesday night last week in Boston. But if Marte comes back, has a great September, hits 7 home runs, plays excellent defense, slugs for 500, and has an 850 OPS, then it's not really going to matter because we're all going to forgive him because his talent. Because he is one of the most talented players in baseball when healthy. There was a quote in this story. Um, yeah. So, in the story, it said the past 3 seasons, Marte earned a combined 38 million, according to Fangraphs Dollar Metrics, which is war converted to a dollar scale based on what a player would earn in free agency. He was worth more than 3 times that amount, a combined 122.3 million. So Diamondbacks have been getting great value from Ketel Marte. So they're not paying him uh full value. And so I think the point of this article was to say you're still getting great value from Ketel Marte in the lineup, even if he has these random disappearances. Now, does it absolutely fracture a locker room? And did it derail the Diamondbacks season last season? It 100% does. And it's up to Torey Lovello and Mike Hazen on Monday to make sure that everyone is still rowing in the same direction and everyone has moved on from this story after Monday. Because if there's still drama trickling from the clubhouse after Monday, it means that it hasn't been put to bed, and then it's going to cause some disruption in that organization, and any kind of chaos not focused towards getting into the wild card spot is going to make it that much harder for this team to get there when all's said and done. The good news is that Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen are on their way back. Justin Martinez has made his way back and is again throwing 103 miles per hour. So no harm done there. But the Diamondbacks have to get through this weekend. They need to take 2 out of 3 against the Phillies. If they could sweep the Phillies, I mean, now we're back to talking finishing in the second wild card spot because it would drag the Phillies right back down into the thick of it with the Padres and with the Diamondbacks. But we'll see. Lourdes Gurriel still struggling in AAA. Tommy Troy has been playing a little bit better in AA right now, so potentially we could see one of those two guys come back to the lineup. And then a sneaky candidate that the Diamondbacks may acquire for this playoff push could be Eugenio Suarez, who was just put on waivers by the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously, Suarez spent 2 years with the Diamondbacks organization before being traded at the deadline last year. Here's the deal with Suarez. His overall stats this year, he has a 208 batting percentage, 19 home runs, just barely over a 700 OPS. But in the last 2 months against right-handing pitching, he has well over an 800 OPS. So since July 1st, Suarez has been hitting right-handed pitchers very well. So, and that's been a big area of weakness for this Diamondbacks roster is hitting right-handed pitchers. So, it will be interesting to see if the Diamondbacks take a chance on a Eugenio Suarez. It's not like Lars Nootbaar or Max Kepler are doing a whole lot better than Suarez has been doing recently against right-handed pitching. He would probably slide right into the DH spot if Arenado continues to struggle with his trunk issue. It might be nice to have a third baseman to come in and provide a little bit of a rest day. But Jose Fernandez has also been playing well at third base since coming back from AAA as well. Diamondbacks are going to have to figure out what to do with Ketel Marte uh, and Jose Fernandez and a Eugenio Suarez and a bunch of other players on Monday. What will those roster decisions look like? I will have that for you hopefully Monday. That news breaks before we go live. Always trying to go live Monday and Thursday with this. I'm hoping to get these out earlier as well, but still figuring out this entire podcasting process. So bear with me. But yeah, that's the Arizona Diamondbacks portion of this show. Thank you so much for watching. And if you are watching this live or listening to it recorded, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts and leave a review as well. The Arizona Cardinals joined the Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Arizona Cardinals win the joint practice against the Green Bay Packers. Let's get right into it. On Thursday, or sorry, on Wednesday, August 26th, the Arizona Cardinals and Green Bay Packers had a joint practice in Green Bay, Wisconsin that started off slow for the Arizona Cardinals, but once the Cardinals woke up, they finished fast. Again, the storyline that we've talked about all training camp has been this Cardinals offensive line. It really struggled in the beginning portions of practice. Brissett was 5 of 12, was sacked, had an interception. Cardinals' first six carries were all stopped for short yardage because the offensive line just was not playing well. Everything around this, everything else on offense besides the offensive line could be pretty good this year for the Cardinals. They just need this offensive line to step up. And again, the three players that highlighted this the most, it was Trey McBride, who had 11 receptions. It was Marvin Harrison Jr., who had some really big explosive plays and an incredible tiptoe catch for a touchdown to cap off Cardinals practice. And Michael Wilson caught 7 balls on 13 targets, including one drop. This three-headed monster of playmakers at the wide receiver and tight end position for the Cardinals, I don't know if it's top 5 in football, but if Marvin Harrison Jr. continues to flash the way he has through training camp so far, and Michael Wilson continues to be a consistent option for Jacoby Brissett, those three could be one of the top 3 or a top 10 trio in football at the skill position, at the skill position, at the skill position. Ooh, those three players could be a top 10 trio in football as pass catchers. And that's not even mentioning Jeremiah Love when he gets healthy, James Conner when he gets healthy, and Tyler Algier. This Cardinals skill position rooms are pretty stinking good. If we can just get the offensive line to pass protect and run block at an average level, this Cardinals team should be able to put up points against just about any NFL defense. The Cardinals defense also struggled in the early portions of practice against the Packers, but at the end, it had multiple interceptions, 4 interceptions, and a final sack to turn the Packers on downs to conclude practice. So while it took the Cardinals a while to wake up, they eventually got going and showed why this is a team that could win more than 3.5 games this season. I said it a month ago, and I'm sticking with it now. 3.5 win total for the Cardinals. I'm taking the over. I think I really like the over. Now, the Cardinals could be 2-14 he- heading into the final 2 weeks of the season. But I really like how that Cardinals schedule ends. And I think even if it's Carson Beck or Gardner Minshew back there at quarterback, I think this Cardinals team is better than the other bottom feeders in the NFL. Now, could the Cardinals trade every single guy that's talented away at the trade deadline? Yes, they could. So could Josh Sweat and James Conner and Tyler Algier and Michael Wilson, even potentially, if the Cardinals don't think that they'll be able to keep him at a number that's suitable for their cap going forward. There are many players on this roster that still have good trade value that the Cardinals might have to get rid of to continue the rebuild. But, but this Cardinals team at full strength, I think is definitely not one of the worst teams in football. Do I think they're a playoff team? No, but do I pencil them in more between the 6 to 8 win range? I think I do. And one reason and two reasons I say that, it's Garrett Williams' return, one of the best nickel corners in football when healthy, and Josh Sweat, one of the best pass rushers in football when healthy, were both activated from the pup list this week and will return to the Arizona Cardinals lineup. I expect both of them to start day one of the season. And hopefully, the Cardinals defense looks a little more like it did during the first half of the season last year than it did in the second half. The first half of the season, the Cardinals defense did enough to win, and it was the offense that was the problem. It shut down the 49ers, it shut down the Seahawks, but the offense wasn't good enough to get the job done. Now, in the second half, the Cardinals defense was pretty stinking bad. Now, you can blame injuries, you can blame lack of focus because of how bad the record was. There are a lot of factors that went into it. I'm also on record as saying that I think Nick Rallis will be the first defensive coordinator fired this season in the NFL. But if all the tools come together, even if Nick Rallis isn't the greatest defensive coordinator ever, if you have talented guys and the talent plays well, that helps the defensive coordinator look a lot smarter than he actually is. And I'm not an X's and O's guru, so maybe Nick Rallis is a really good defensive coordinator, and he just hasn't been able to show it yet. But what the results say is that he's had a bottom half defense every single year he's been in Arizona, and that has to change. That has to change if if the Cardinals want to be good this season. That's the number one thing that has to change from last year to this year, and maybe it can. Now, we did also see Trey Benson get cut from the Cardinals, another blemish on Monty Austin Fort's resume. There are a lot of blemishes on there. Not exactly the most stellar draft history for Austin Fort in his time at Arizona. And Trey Benson is a third round pick that really just didn't work out at all. He is back with the Cardinals after clearing waivers. So maybe there's still a long term play where Benson can produce uh, at a marginal level for the Cardinals at some point in his career. But I think we can officially declare the time of death on Monty Austin Fort's draft history. If we can't declare time of death now, if Marvin Harrison Jr. goes out there and doesn't perform well this season again, I think we can declare time of death on Monty Austin Fort pretty quickly at the end of the season. Now, that being said, I think Austin Fort's going to do everything he possibly can to get the Cardinals turnaround to be quick because he knows it. We know it. His job is on the line. And I highly doubt the Cardinals will want him to be making a pick at quarterback at the end of the season if things don't go well. Because ESPN recently released their mock draft and they had the Arizona Cardinals picking Arch Manning with the number 2 overall pick in the 2027 draft. Now, there's a few factors that go into this. Arch Manning could go back to college for the 2027 season. So it's not even set in stone that Arch Manning is going to be available for the Cardinals. Same goes for a couple other quarterbacks in this draft class. But what we do know, and if you listen to Todd McShay or Jordan Reed or any other football draft, NFL draft uh, evaluators, projections, any of that stuff, you know that this class is about as quarterback heavy as we've ever seen. So if there's a year for the Cardinals to be bad and get a quarterback, which a lot of people expect them to do, maybe not on purpose, but they just expect it to happen because it's Jacoby Brissett starting at quarterback right now for the Cardinals, this would be the year to do it. This would definitely be the year to do it because of how loaded the talent is in this draft class. But with that being said, could the Cardinals still get a decent quarterback with the 8th pick or the 10th pick in this draft? They absolutely could. They absolutely could. Just because of how loaded the draft talent is in this class. I will say there's a few guys I want the Cardinals to draft. I would love for them to draft Arch Manning or Dylan Moore or sorry, Dante Moore. It's Dylan Rayola that's a backup at Oregon. Dante Moore. Um, there's also guys like Sam Levitt that Todd McShay is really high on. Lenora Sellers, I think, would be a very interesting prospect. Kind of more in the Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton kind of athlete at quarterback and not your traditional lights out pocket passer. Julian Sainz, a guy that a lot of people are excited for in this draft. Not me personally, but the Cardinals seem to love drafting guys from Ohio State. I just hope it's Jeremiah Smith and not Julian Sain, if we're being completely honest. So there's a lot of avenues for the Cardinals to go down this season, and I highly doubt Monty Fort will be making the next pick at quarterback for the Cardinals. But I do expect this Cardinals team to to win more than 3 games this season. Is it going to be 8? Probably not. Is it most likely going to be 4 or 5? I think so. But we're going to find out because NFL football is only 17 days away. I cannot wait. All right. If you've been on Twitter at all the last week and you follow Devin Booker, Phoenix Suns discourse, then you've definitely seen this take out there. But I'm going to play it for you if you haven't and then react to it.
Book doesn't make his teammates twice as good as they normally are. Chris Paul does. Book affects one part of the game very strongly, scoring. He doesn't do that in defense, doesn't do that in playmaking to the level that it takes to take your team all the way. He can affect one phase of the game, not all three.
And I say the same thing about Luka. He affects one phase of the game.
He affects, I think, two. His own scoring and making his teammates score. So he's going to score as much as Book is going to score or more, and then he's going to make other players almost catch up. You know what I mean? It's the panel. Religion get built on camp.
All right. First things first that we have to get to. No player, and this is where I'm like immediately turned off by this take. No player makes their teammate twice as good. Not Nikola Jokic, not Kevin Durant, not LeBron James, not Larry Bird, not Wilt Chamberlain, not Bill Russell. Not one guy in NBA history makes their teammates twice as good. I I think it just fails to comprehend that basketball is a team game. I think so many people are so focused on, oh, you have to have this top 7 player in basketball to even be able to win a championship. Now, yes, does having one-star player in basketball, is that a bigger difference than having the one-star player in football or the one-star player in baseball or the one-star player in soccer? Yes, there's less guys on the floor, so every individual on the court matters in much more compared to other sports outside of individual sports, obviously. But one player does not make their teammates twice as good. Like Chris Paul, as good as Chris Paul was, he didn't make his teammates twice as good because Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, Jay Crowder. I mean, maybe you can argue that uh, Chris Paul made DeAndre Ayton twice as good, but that was more of a DeAndre Ayton thing than it was a Chris Paul thing, in my opinion. Obviously, Chris Paul helped get DA open and kept him involved, but for the most part, it was a DA thing. DA controls how well DA plays, right? Was Chris Paul a great Phoenix Sun? Absolutely, he was. Was he a better playmaker than Devin Booker is right now? You could probably argue that. But honestly, what we saw Booker do last year when entire defenses were tilted towards him, we saw Booker still make incredible plays over and over and over again as a playmaker. He came into the league as a scorer, no doubt. But honestly, I think right now he's a better playmaker overall than he is as an efficient scorer. And that's not something I would have said back in 2022. It's just not. But now the way Booker thinks the game of basketball, the way he sees the game of basketball is at an extremely high level. Now, here are some of the minute differences. Sure, he doesn't average 10 assists a game. But what's great about Booker is that he's not an assist hunter. All right. There's guys like Luca and Trey Young and a lot of these other ball dominant players that average a lot of assists. But guess what? No one else touches the ball until they give it up with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. So, one, their potential assist opportunities go up, and two, their assists go up. But the reason why that happens is because they're holding onto the ball so much. Booker makes plays, but he gets off of the ball quick. He plays a very similar style, or at least thinks in a very similar style to one of his best friends in the NBA right now, Steph Curry. Steph Curry led the NBA last season in secondary assists, and Booker was second. And everyone talks about, and well, not everyone, but Steph is an incredible playmaker, always has been. But he's never been a guy that's averaged 10 assists because he doesn't just sit and dribble. He wants to be in a part he wants to be a part of an offense that moves. But he's off the ball and on the ball. Same with Booker. Booker is not a Booker is not a run four low and let me ISO guy or run three low and let me just run high pick and roll the whole time. Is he a really good pick and roll player? He definitely is. And that's where he's grown the most as an NBA player this decade is in his pick and roll reads. We saw it in Dallas again in 2022. The reads weren't there. And also the plan wasn't there from the coaching staff and the talent wasn't there as far as guys being able to do stuff off of him. But we've seen him get extremely good at that. He's talked about as a basketball savant, not just by us sicko fans. Tyronn Lue, Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra. First thing they tell you about Booker isn't the talent, it's the IQ. His ability to mold himself to any situation on a basketball floor. That's what makes Booker special. And he sacrifices his stats to do that. Last year, if Booker wanted to play like Trey Young and Luka Doncic, he could have scored 30 and averaged 10 assists. The Suns would have won 35 games, and everyone would have been saying, man, Devin Booker needs some help. Everyone would have said that. I mean, it's crazy to me that we're just so glued to these counting stats and we don't actually understand what's going on. The other thing is, yeah, a guy like Jokic and guys like Luca are able to average more assists because they're taller. Quite simply. They're able to make passes that Booker can't because those guys can always see over a defense and those guys can pass over defenses differently than Booker can. I'm not saying Booker is in the same level of playmaker as those guys are. Luca, Jokic, probably two of the better or probably the two best playmakers we have in the NBA. But you want to talk about winning a championship level playmaking? Okay, who's the best playmaker on the Thunder? SGA? Okay. Devin Booker finished 3 spots behind SGA during the regular season in potential assists. Okay, how about the 2026 MVP? Jalen Brunson. Oh, that's interesting. Devin Booker finished 6 spots ahead of Brunson in potential assists. I would actually go as far to say that Devin Booker's playmaking is the best aspect of his game right now because I think he's taken a step back as a scorer. He's not an efficient 3-point shooter. He hasn't been as efficient in the mid range the last couple of seasons. He finally has figured out the tricks to getting to the free throw line last year, and that's really what saved his efficiency last season was because he shot over 8 free throw attempts a game. But you look at what's holding this Suns team back and what's holding Booker back. In my opinion, it isn't the playmaking that's holding Booker back. He has it all on him, and he's going to have it all on him again this season because Jalen Green is score first. Miles Bridges is more of a score first guy. Dylan Brooks is a score first guy. Although Dylan did say that his instruction from management this season has been to work on passing. So we're gonna see if Dylan Brooks changes his his passing at all this season. But you look at a lot of the guys that are surrounding Devin Booker this year, it's going to be all on him yet again to be the primary playmaker and to elevate everyone's game around him. Also, we want to look at Jokic and Luca and LeBron and all the people that they've helped get paid over the years because they've elevated players around them. Well, okay, let's look at this. Royce O'Neal had his best three-point shooting season ever. Colin Gillespie got paid. Jordan Goodwin got paid. Grayson Allen averaged more points per game this season. I think it was a career high. I don't know exactly how it ended, but throughout the first 50 games before he got hurt, Grayson Allen was having another career year. Mark Williams got paid despite finishing the season mostly injured. Devin Booker is probably going to get Oso Ighodaro paid at the end of this season, whether it's by the Suns or someone else. We're gonna if Rasheer Fleming and Kaman Malawach work out, Devin Booker is gonna be a big reason why that happens. Dylan Brooks just got an extension, averaged the most points per game in his career. Why? Because Booker is a bad playmaker? No, because Booker understands ball. Booker understands ball at a level that not everyone is capable of understanding, myself included. I know 0.01% about basketball that Devin Booker does, but I at least know this. Booker tilts defenses towards him, and because he gets off the ball early, it helps his team. It doesn't result in assists, it results in secondary assists. Devin Booker, as a scorer, needs to be better. He needs to be more efficient as a scorer for this Suns team to be a top 4 team in the West. I think that more than anything was apparent at the end of these close games was Devin Booker has a harder time scoring than he did in the early part of his career. So I think teams know that he doesn't exactly want to shoot the 3. I think teams know kind of the scouting report on Booker. What spots does he like to get to in the mid range? And teams aren't letting him get there anymore. So to me, Booker has to elevate himself as a scorer again, not as a playmaker for this Suns team to be one of the best teams in the NBA. And also, look, is Devin Booker an all NBA defender? No, he's not. And I would never sit here and say, yeah, Booker is a great defender. But here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. Since the Suns stopped tanking in the 2020-2021 season, 6 years, 6 years of Suns defenses, right? Devin Booker has only been on a team that's finished on the bottom half of the NBA in defensive rating one time. One time. And he's been the leading scorer, the leading minutes getter. He hasn't played in the most games, but when he's on the floor, and he's on the floor more than anyone else, the Suns have had a good defense more often than not. 4 of those seasons, the Suns have finished with the top 10 defense. 4 seasons out of the last 6 seasons that Devin Booker has been a Phoenix Sun, has been the best player on the Phoenix Suns. His team is finished with a top 10 defensive net rating. Now, yeah, it's not top 5, but You can't argue that he doesn't at least do his job, because if he was as bad as Luca or Trey Young or some of these other players, then the defensive rating for the Suns would be worse. And yeah, is he the weak link on the floor sometimes? He sometimes is, but for the most part, he holds up 10 times better than Luca or Trey Young or any of these other, like, oh, incredible 10 assists a game playmakers are. He holds up way better on defense than any of those guys. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Devin Booker has been a top 10 player of the last 2 years. He quite frankly has not. And that's been disappointing. That's absolutely been disappointing. But to say he doesn't impact winning at a championship level or hasn't, I think is picking nits at a guy who overall has been one of the best players in the NBA over the last half decade. I think if Devin Booker had perhaps a competent organization throughout his entire time in the Phoenix Suns, that he'd have multiple NBA championships as the best player. We just heard Tyrese Halliburton say he would have killed to play with Book. He would have killed to play with Book. He wanted the Suns to draft him. And like I've said on this podcast before, Tyrese Halliburton and Devin Booker win at least an NBA championship together over the last half decade. Because there's no doubt in my mind that's the best backcourt in the NBA. Steph and Clay had it, and it could have been, and it was. Booker and Chris Paul were the best backcourt in the NBA for 2 seasons. Booker and Halliburton could have been the best backcourt in the NBA for 10 seasons. 10. 10 seasons. They could have been the best backcourt in the NBA, because Halliburton plays not quite exactly the same way as Booker, but he's a guy who likes to give the ball up. He doesn't always sit and dribble, dribble, dribble. He and Booker are the same way in many ways, where they'll sacrifice their own stats for the better of the team. That's why Colin Gillespie came out and said it's a bad take, right? It's because those two guys, and I wish they would have played together their entire career, but those two guys understand that it's not just about counting stats. It's not just about counting stats. It's about elevating your team and showing the example of, hey, I could score 30 a game, but I'm not going to, because I'm trying to get everyone else involved. And I'm trying to put my team in the best position I can to win. Devin Booker does that every single night. Is he a top 5 player in the NBA? No. Are you saying, oh, he doesn't do it at a championship level? Well, yeah, maybe. But if you're saying Devin Booker only impacts the game in one way, and that's scoring, I don't know what kind of basketball we're watching. You must have a different stream than I do, because I just don't see that at all. I see a guy who is always trying to elevate his teammates first. At least last season, I see a guy who's always trying to elevate his teammates first and then is worrying about getting his own second. And that's exactly how he's going to play this year. Devin Booker might only average 23 points per game this season. But if Jalen's getting 19 and Dylan's getting 18 and Miles Bridges is getting 17, Mark Williams is getting 11, and Colin Gillespie is getting 11, and Rasheer Fleming's getting 7 and 7, and Koa P or Oso Ighodaro or whoever you want to throw out there is getting theirs as well. Like, come on, Malawatch. I mean, let's look at it for what it is. I think Devin Booker is gonna is probably the best playmaking season of his career. One, because he kind of has to, and two, because he can freaking do it. He can absolutely freaking do it. And I'm excited to watch Devin Booker play the game because he's so smart. Like he says, can't talk basketball with everyone. The sentiment remains the same. That's it for the AZ Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Humpherys. Please give this video a like and subscribe. Or if you're listening to it on podcast platform, please give us a follow and leave a review. Leave a 5-star review or a 1-star review, honestly. Tell me what I need to do better because I know there's probably 10 to 15 things I need to do better. But that's it for the podcast. Hope to see you guys next Monday where we get to talk about a Diamondbacks series sweep against the San Francisco Giants, more Arizona Cardinals news, and hopefully some more positive Phoenix Suns talk.